Well, I'd like to thank all of you to join us for joining us in this discussion this morning, this evening, or this afternoon, depending where you are. It's a pleasure to be your moderator in this essential topic on how to bring people in when we discuss the digital transformation, the modernization of parliaments. So discussing the human element as we discuss here at Bússola Tech. I'd like to, before we start, to explain a little bit for colleagues watching us how this is going to be structured. I'm going to invite every one of our esteemed colleagues and invited guests here to make a short 10-minute presentation about their thoughts on this topic. And after that, I will bring a few prepared questions that I have for them also about this topic. But before we start with the presentation, I'd like to yield the floor to each one of you very briefly for 1 minute, just for you to introduce yourself, telling about your role and how you have been engaging with modernization in your own parliament or your own institution. I'll do this alphabetically if you permit me. Catherine, would you like to introduce yourself for the colleagues?
Yes. Catherine Szpindor, Chief Administrative Officer of the House of Representatives. I am responsible for all the business functions of the House and providing those services to our members and staff. I would like to thank Bússola Tech for hosting this discussion, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be a member of this panel today. I look forward to highlighting my organization's approach to AI and our exploration and journey, and it is a journey, to provide secure AI tools for effective and productive use of this technology to our members and staff in the House of Representatives. I'm extremely interested in learning from the esteemed panel that is here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, for your introduction. I'd like to yield the floor to Federico for him to introduce himself. Federico?
Of course. Thank you very much, Luis, for having me today. Thank you very much, Bússola Tech staff. My name is Federico Fernandez. I'm Director of Institutional Strengthening at the Senado of Argentina. I have been working in modernization since 2016. In my role, I work as a lawyer, as a technical capacity. I'm so proud of this role, and thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you, Federico. Jonathan, would you like to introduce yourself for the colleagues as well?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, my name is Jonathan from NovaWorks here in Australia. We've been working with parliaments probably for the last 20 years or so, all around sort of Australia, Pacific. We also do work now in Canada and also Europe and the UK as well. So what we do is strategic sort of advice in terms of implementation of digital strategy for within the parliamentary context. And also we develop software as well for those sort of digital transformations on top of that.
Thank you, Jonathan. Bandeira, would you like to introduce yourself for the colleagues?
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning for everyone in this side of the planet. Good evening, Jonathan. I'm Luís Bandeira. I've been working in Brazilian Senate for the last 22 years. I've been clerk of the Brazilian Senate for 8 years. And now I'm director of the presidency for legal matters, legal affairs. And I'm very glad to be here, Luís. Thank you for inviting us. I hope I'll try to share some of our experience in modernization of our parliament, and also talk a little bit about training our functionaries, our people to get up to this modernization, to the implementation of AI. Thank you.
Thank you, Bandeira. To quick start this discussion today, I'd like to invite each one of you to make your opening presentation. If you allow me, I'll do again alphabetically. I'd like to recognize you, Catherine, for the time of 10 minutes for you to share your opening presentation. Please feel free to use the floor.
All right. Well, I think you had a couple of questions that you wanted us to cover. And I'm excited to be able to talk to you about how we're approaching AI for the House of Representatives. I have a long IT background. I started in information technology, was CIO before becoming CAO of the House. And we are looking at opportunities to continue to roll out some of the AI technology we've been experimenting with for the past 2 years. And we have some rolled out. We rolled out ChatGPT initially and worked with our users to get them trained and effectively using the product. We're also doing quite a bit with generative AI, LLMs, and being able to pull information and create simple apps for individuals to use across the house. We are taking a very planned approach to our rollout of AI. As you can imagine, for those of you that are in government, and I think most of us are either working for government or participating in government, security is the utmost concern we have for anything that we do. We have taken time to ensure that we have policies in place and practices in place that when we do select a product, we feel like that we can begin development on it and experimentation with it, and then get something that we feel like that our users will be able to learn, do training. And I cannot express my my thoughts enough on training and how important that is to doing any rollout of AI. It is absolutely critical. And it's not just training one time, it's training and training and training. And I don't think you can be successful in rolling out any AI product unless you have a plan for how you're going to engage and train and continue conversations with the employees that are using the tool that you've rolled out.
Thank you, Catherine, for your opening considerations. Federico, would you like to use the floor as well for the time of 10 minutes?
Yes, of course. Dear colleague, thank you for being here. We are living in an area where technology is reshaping how democratic institutions operate. Worldwide, parliaments are adopting digital tools to become more efficient and transparent. And trends such as automation of legislative processes, big data analysis to inform decision-making, and the use of AI to summarize debate or detect trends in public opinion. These are transforming parliament work. For instance, in the European Parliament, use AI for real-time translation of documents. In Argentina, although progress has been made in digitalization, we still have a long way to go in strategically integrating these technologies. Digital transformation is not just about tools, it's about the people. Our parliament staff need new skills to operate effectively in a technology-driven environment. Advanced digital literacy, navigate collaborating platform, adaptability to embrace constant innovation, and strategic thinking to align technology with democratic objectives are essential, of course. Without these competencies, we risk falling behind and missing opportunities to enhance legislative efficiency and civic engagement. A well-trained staff not only optimize process, but also strengthen trust in Parliament. For this, I propose in my case for a key strategy to prepare our staff in this case. A continued training programs is necessary because develop modular course, data analysis, cybersecurity, and ethical AI use tailored to different parliamentary roles. The other key is gradual integration of AI tools. Introduce, in this case, AI system for tasks such as summarizing bills or analyzing citizens' inquiries, along with the practical training to build staff confidence. On the other hand, for example, partnership with the academic institution. Collaborate with in Argentina universities to offer digital transformation certification as our Uruguay Parliament does with its national university, for example. And finally, legislate innovation labs. In this case, create a space where staff can experiment with emerging technologies inspired, in this case, by Brazilian labs legis, with test tools like chatbots respond citizens' queries. Technology alone is not enough without a cultural shift. Resistance to change is natural, but it must be transformed into enthusiasm. Stop fear AI will replace them, but our message must be clear in this case. AI is an ally that enhances their work, not a substitute. Parliamentary leadership must be lead by example, adopting this tool and fostering a culture of lifelong learning. Awareness workshop and successful case like a New Zealand use AI to prioritize debates can inspire confidence in this case. Let us imagine in Argentina Parliament leading the region in legislative digitalization, where staff use technology to analyze data in real time, respond to citizens swiftly, and ensure transparent processes. By training our human capital, it's important for us. We don't just modernize this institution, we strengthen democracy, ensuring every Argentine feels heard and represented.
Thank you, Federico, for your opening considerations. Jonathan, would you like to use the floor as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd like to sort of set the context in terms of probably our experience is probably across multiple different parliaments and what we've actually seen, does, what does go well and what doesn't go well as an example across sort of the staff, digital transformation in, within parliamentary staff as an example. And I think, as sort of Catherine was sort of saying as well, is that change management is really one of the biggest areas, and the training component and the acknowledgement that everything that we do around the digital transformation side is definitely going to impact staff. So to me, change management is extremely important, and the projects that we've seen implement digital transformation very well really do focus a lot around the change management of the people, like the people-centric view of what digital transformation actually means for the parliament itself. And I think structured change management is really critical in the parliamentary setting. You know, if we look at parliaments in general, we have to make sure that we're transparent, we're accurate in terms of what we do and quality. The quality of the output is obviously very high as well. So with any digital transformation, we want to make sure that we're focusing our attention to make sure that we're not losing any of those sort of aspects as well. One of the biggest things I think with any of the digital transformation parts to it is that really is about the communication of the why. So why are we actually transforming? Like, what are the benefits of using AI? What are the benefits of any part of a digital transformation process as well? Because I think if we look at a lot of different parliaments, they've been around for a very long time. So there's a lot of inbuilt knowledge. There's a lot of, you know, tradition. There's a lot of other, you know, sort of elements which are really quite complex to unwind when we're looking at sort of moving forward. And I think a really sort of interesting way I sort of look at it is that with digital transformation, we're looking at trying to innovate and trying to actually move forward. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we're not sort of replacing or not sort of, I suppose, you know, trying to make sure that we're not removing the tradition of parliamentary sort of process as well. So there's the catch-22 around, you know, tradition and innovation versus, you know, it's sort of not necessarily tradition or innovation as an example. So it's sort of really, I think, fundamentally understanding what is, I suppose, is really fundamental to the parliament is really quite important in terms of what we're actually doing in terms of mapping out a digital transformation strategy for them. And I suppose as part of our digital transformation, we look to create that sort of desire in terms of desire to actually move forward with digital transformation of the staff. You know, so how does, you know, connecting the digital transformation enhance the parliamentary values that we're trying to actually achieve? Showing how does technology enhance transparency, you know, by live streaming, by putting in digital records, by surfacing more information in a meaningful way. You know, can we actually demonstrate accuracy improvements? Can we automate cross-referencing? Can we actually make sure that the laws which we're actually passing, you know, have got those sort of solid foundations, you know, or automatically somehow as an example? So, you know, there's some really interesting things in terms of using generative AI to cross-reference, to cross-check, and a range of other things we're seeing. And I think really importantly as well is that with any digital innovation project as well within staff, it's sort of like highlighting the gain, you know, highlighting the improvements, because sometimes we always tend to focus on the negative side, you know, and really I think it's important to then say, well, actually, we have driven efficiency, we have driven, you know, quality of life and work-life balance as well. You know, one of the biggest issues we've always sort of seen with the parliamentary job as well is that work-life balance. You know, it can be very long hours. It can be very, you know, tedious. It can be very complex, as an example. And the introduction of technology as a tool, and I'll say it that way as well, very specifically, it's not a replacement for people's jobs. It's a tool to enhance people's jobs. So. And I think in terms of that, it's really about that mindset shift to move from the creator of, say, content potentially to the reviewer of content as well. And it's quite an interesting mind sort of set in terms of how we're traditionally working with data right now to actually what we're sort of seeing is becoming the future as well. So if we look at Hansard or the transcription side of things where it's being automated, you know, traditionally Hansard people would be creating all of that content, manually typing it into a document or using voice automation as an example to type it into a document and then review the content. Whereas now we're seeing the shift around, well, the content is already being created in some sort of form of draft, and now they're moving just to the review stage as an example. So I think showing and highlighting sort of the quality gains and the efficiency gains from a staffing point of view is actually really important. mentoring and sort of a training aspect, and really enhancing that sort of knowledge for the staff as well. So as sort of Catherine, as you sort of said, as well as your previous comments around the training aspect, it's not just a one-off training methodology around some of this AI adoption as well. It's that continuous learning. And I always sort of look at it from my own personal experiences of using AI. The way I used artificial intelligence 2 years ago to now is very vastly different, because I've learnt better ways to actually interact with it as an example. And I think it's that continuous sort of learning experience is really important as we sort of shift from what I call the Google type search, which is sort of that single line of entry in the paragraph, to that sort of more free form text view of how we can actually interact with content these days as well. And that's a lot of it's a big paradigm shift, especially because, Google, et cetera, the way of traditionally searching has been around for 20, 30 years, et cetera now. And now we're sort of seeing that sort of really big mind, set change in terms of how we're actually now interacting with your own data sets becomes really quite interesting from a training point of view. So I think, it's really, I think, balancing that sort of tradition, the innovation, celebrating the wins, etc., and recognition that systems, that actually are there, need leaders out there as well within the actual staffing environment. So people who want to change as well. We're seeing that even with members of parliament coming in. So new members of parliament sort of now have the expectation of, well, why can't I access this digitally, etc. Whereas members who have been around for, say, the last 20 years may not actually have that experience or may not have that desire to actually change as well. So it's sort of finding the right balance between moving forward when, you've got those cycles of people coming in. And also, I think driving that sort of change is really that sort of important pillar to actually move towards digital innovation.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your opening presentation as well. Very insightful as usual. I'd like to recognize you, Bandeira, also for your opening considerations for the time of 10 minutes. Please feel free to use the floor.
Okay, thank you once again. Were very interesting, all the considerations that I just heard. And I would like to agree very much with Jonathan just said. We have the parliaments of they have been there for the last 2, 3, 5 centuries, and how parliament is done, how discussions are held in parliament is something that has been evolving, and since COVID, we had a enormous transformation in parliament. When you got COVID, you just you made a debate on that, Kimaid, and because usually the parliaments, we just put people together and people just begin to debate, to talk, sometimes vigorously, sometimes with a lot of intensity, a lot of and all that was made in any cycle, little spaces without social distancing. But when we had to deal with that in COVID-19, we had to shift to a new kind of parliament, and we have been all touched by that. What we saw in this first transformation, well, we saw a huge use of technology by parliaments, and we had some kind of replacements, yes, but I don't think the major goal of implementing AI in parliament is about replacing people. Some kind of services like stenographers. We have we've been using AI stenographers in parliaments about 10 years already, and we had in Brazilian Senate about 70 stenographers to make just a transcript of what has been said in Parliament. And now we have about 35 people doing that, because we just begin from automatic transcription made by AI, and what people should do now is only a revision before publicizing it. But we have different sectors of Parliament that can be also touched by AI. For example, when a senator needs to do some kind of pronouncement about a different theme that he doesn't know necessarily, you can use AI to get some ChatGPT ad to help to talk about the theme and make a pronouncement. And you can use AI also to try to reach information and try to use this information in a faster way in order to give this to the Parliament personnel. But what would be our goal when we talk about training people? Jonathan just talked about mentoring and trying to teach people to use AI, because really we have some functionaries and Parliament people that has been there for 20, 30 years and never used AI, and they always do a good job. We need them, we still need them. But what we should do is try to get people to use AI as a tool, not for a replacement, but a new kind of a work with new level of access to information with better how can I explain this? I should say when given people a new tool, but they had to discover how to do it. Would be like teaching prompt engineering to Parliament people. Maybe some kind of functions would need some prompt engineering, but you see, it's not a big deal when you just need to get the prompt. You're gonna do ChatGPT. It's not very hard to do this. What is really hard is to show people how that can be used in our service to get your work done faster and more precisely. I think in the use of AI in Parliament has some limitations. I've already been in a discussion with Kimaid, and we were talking. Well, it's easy to see how to use AI in judiciary, for example, because you have a lot of process with some very similar one to the other, so you can use standardized decisions and a kind of line of production of this judicial decision that AI can be very helpful. But Parliament they are not going to make 2,000 new laws in a week or in a month. And normally they are going to concentrate in a bill or in 2 or 3 bills in a week or in a month. And you need more specialized work. So it's not exactly what AI can help. AI can bring us information, can bring us kind of a drafts, but you still need a human knowledge to transform this to parliamentary use. what I think is that you can also train parliament people to do the administration job. You know, we're talking a lot about the use in the legislative process, but maybe AI is very useful also for parliaments, for administration, to find health problems in people, to find how to deal with international legislation, for example. You know, there will always have been have deal with the problem with knowing and dealing with international legislation, for example. When we're talking about intellectual property, for example, and the legislation for intellectual property with AI, you have legislation in Europe, you have legislation in the United States and Canada. They are very accessible because they are usually in English or in language that you can deal with easily. But when you talk about South Korea, Japan, China, Russia, and other countries that not necessarily have their legislation in English or in a language that you can easily access, you know, AI can be very helpful to deal. Listen, in Japan, the intellectual property protection is built like this, and in China like this, and Russia like this, and you can use this information that AI can provide you to make your new legislation for your country and adapt it to your situation. But when you're thinking besides the legislative process and thinking about how to manage people and how work is done, AI can be, yes, very helpful. But in this use, maybe AI will be more, will not so different from the use of AI in the executive branch or in big enterprises. You know. So you have to train your personnel to deal with AI difficulties and advantages, both for the legislative process and also the administration of parliaments. I guess we're dealing with a new frontier, a new kind of job that will not replace our people, but sure, they will demand a new kind of formation. We just held in Brazil an exam, a selection exam for new functionaries in Brazilian Senate, you know, and in our program 2 years ago, we didn't have AI. So people have been selected without being tested about AI. And all these people that already have been here for 20 years and people that's getting right now in Congress, they will need some training. Also because AI has not stopped the evolution of AI, will continue, and we need to discover how to use it as far as it is right now, but also how to deal with the evolution of AI. And I'm pretty much sure that we're making a good path, Kimaid. And in debates like this, we are going to find some strategies to deal with the subject. Well, I guess I just got to my 10 minutes, and so I give back the floor to you, Kimaid. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bandeira, for your considerations. Well, allow me to bring my first question to you, and that will touch on an issue that all of you discussed at some point, which is the concerns or the fears amongst parliamentary staff when facing digital transformation, especially with the rapid adoption of artificial intelligence. Their concern, well, is the potential loss of their relevance, or even to lose their jobs, their roles. And in some cases, it's realistic to recognize and to acknowledge that certain aspects of that work will be drastically transformed. So From your experience, starting with you, Catherine,
Mhm.
how can parliamentary institutions address these concerns and help staff to see AI and new digital tools as an opportunity to enhance rather than replace their work routine?
Well, for us, and for me personally, and how I've always managed staff and talked about what we do as an organization, is you have to just have honest conversations with your staff about the organization's evolution to AI and provide continued information on what is being discussed and planned as you integrate AI into your organization. I do know that there are staff that are anxious, but a lot of that is because they don't understand AI. They don't understand the impact of it, and you have to be able to learn to communicate that to them. You have to provide your staff, all staff, not just the parliamentary staff, the ones that work in our member offices and some of our other smaller organizations, but your technology staff as well needs to be trained on what this means to them and how that can change their job a great deal, and have a tremendous impact on it. Quite frankly, I don't see any jobs disappearing right now from here. I think that we will be able to prepare and reskill many of our traditional staff, and also what we see is a lot of younger staff in the member offices. They are itching to get their hands on some of this and start using technology and AI technology particularly. And they are welcomed candidates for us to be able to work with. So I think there's opportunities. You manage it the way traditional changes have happened in the workforce over many years. And you make everyone understand that you're going to be with them, you're going to be helping them, and you're going to be making sure that they are integrated into the use of anything that you are developing. And that has worked for me in the past during many, many transitions. And I think that that is how you make your staff feel comfortable that you're going to be there to help them on this journey.
Thank you, Catherine, for your considerations. Federico, would you like to comment on this question as well?
Yes, it's a big, interesting question because AI generate concern among our staff. And the most common fear include job displacement, the dehumanization of processes, and the loss of control over complex systems. And this fear often stems from the perception that AI could replace human judgment rather than complement it. I think that the trust is that AI does not replace the parliament work. It enhances it. For example, it can analyze thousands of fields to identify patterns, freeing staff from repetitive tasks. For example, in the Canadian Parliament, AI tools summarize citizens' inquiries, allowing advisors to focus on high-value strategies. It can also automate the initial drafting of reports, leaving the creator refinement to human staff. AI, in my opinion, amplify our analytical capacity. It's not replace it. And according to your question, I suggest or I propose three key approach. For example, number one, internal awareness campaigns. This topic means communicate the benefits of AI through clear examples, such as it's used in Colombia, Congress, for example, to speed up our legislative analysis. Number two, success stories. Invite us our start from neighboring parliaments already using AI to share their positive experience. This is a key example. Or three, leading by example. For example, parliament leaders must publicly adopt these tools, demonstrating their value. This is the main topic in this question, the parliament leaders and their work. As far as I concern, AI is not a rival, but ally. I think that AI is an ally of democracy. By embracing our staff can work more efficiently, devote more time to citizens' engagement, and strengthen the legitimacy of our parliaments. Let us AI as an opportunity to build a more agile and responsive institution.
Thank you, Federico, for your considerations. Jonathan, would like to share your thoughts on this question as well?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. One of the things I'd probably like to sort of start off with is work-life balance, and knowing Parliament and, you know, the pace of work, and also the sheer amount of data which staff members, etc., have to process. It's not getting easier. And the amount of data which is actually being inputted into our systems for analysis and for review, like if we look at committees, you know, if you look at how committees work, they have to process a lot of information, you know, very dynamically, very quickly. And right now they've got to do a lot of that manually. So I sort of look to it and say, well, actually, AI is a really good tool to help with your work-life balance, because the more pressures which are occurring within the parliamentary sense, you know, the traditional approach is, well, I've just got to do more work. You know, and some of that work, talking to a lot of different people in a lot of different parliaments, is not what I call the high-value tasks. It's actually they're spending a lot of time doing a lot of repetitive tasks. They're doing, you know, like basic sort of tasks, which are just can be really quite easily done with AI nowadays. And then you're focusing then on those high value tasks is sort of what the other panelists were saying, is that is actually where the true value is. So it's not replacing what people are actually doing. It's refocusing their attention on what is actually important to the role. And I think that can help drive staff retention. It can help drive a range of other different opportunities around that as well, because if you can improve the quality of life, and people don't have to do all of those sort of repetitive tasks, etc., or just by facing the sheer amount of, you know, volume of content which they have to process, and they feel overwhelmed with that, we should be providing them with a tool such as AI or other facilities to actually minimize that impact on your personal life, as an example. And, you know, if we have worked in parliaments, we know that we're all guilty of working very long hours. And it's really a way of actually, you know, trying to make that, you know, really, I think, fundamentally be ingrained as part of that sort of process as well. And I think, you know, the use of AI, transitioning that to more of a business tool, instead of just sort of this fad or, you know, this sort of, really unique sort of fun, sort of tool to actually use. It's really about how do we actually ingrain that, as a business tool as well. And one of the ways which we've sort of tackled that as an example within the Hansard approach is that we give reporters or their editors, etc., a choice to use AI. So as an example, we'll actually show a live transcript coming in into the actual document as an example on the side. So we're not actually putting it into the document per se, but what we're showing them is a live feed of all the transcript actually coming in, and then they can choose to copy and paste what they actually want as an example into the document. And what we find just by actually providing the right context to staff, etc., is that they become a lot more comfortable with the concepts of AI. And so the adoption then starts to increase as an example. So because they're seeing that, they're actually seeing it come in and it's not being forced on them, they can make a conscious choice to say, actually, this is not too bad. I can actually use this in a meaningful way. And sometimes it's the fear of not knowing what AI can do as a tool to actually assist you, not replace what you're doing, but to actually assist you. And sometimes it's understanding what the use case is of the AI, because the way which we do it in Hansard will be different to the way which we do it in legislation, or the way which we'll do it in procedure, as an example, or committees. And I think it's understanding that each of those sort of areas will have a unique perspective on what the benefits of AI would actually give them. Which can be different to all those sort of other parts of the organization as well. So it is a really interesting sort of thing around, you have to sort of provide the context to the staff to say, well, actually, this is actually how we can assist you with, working better and making more time for you to focus on the high value tasks.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your considerations. Bandeira, would you like to share your thoughts on this question as well? Bandeira, you're mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. Once again, thank you for the question. I guess a very important question, how to enhance parliamentary jobs and works without simply replacing them. But I'll try a different answer, Kimaid. I think we need also AI agents developed specifically for Congress. It's not about using only ChatGPT in Congress. I mean, if you're talking about, Jonathan just brought the example of committees. If you think about an investigative committee, we just created yesterday one in Brazil to investigate some kind of corruption, and this committee is gonna deal with bank transactions. It's gonna deal with the investigation about a lot of data that people can do this. We have been doing this for the last 20, 30 years, but it's much faster if you can just put all that in a AI agent. And if this agent knows what to do, and when I talk AI agent, I'm talking about software, not a person, right? Just to be clear, when this software is already built to search for certain information, certain data, and already with a prompt engineering specifically designed for Congress, you have a huge adoption of AI in this kind of a work. I think it's the best way to convince people that they could use AI in their jobs in Congress, if we can bring and put this technology in AI agents specifically designed for Congress. Kimaid, already I've been in the judiciary for the last 4 years, licensed from Senate, and I've been a reporter from the regulation of AI in judiciary. And the most important thing, we didn't want the judges to take the whole process and go up in the cloud to ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or Claude or whatever, just do the job and give back a judicial decision. We must have some kind of guidelines in AI work in order to provide a good answer. For example, without hallucination. We don't want hallucination in our parliamentary jobs, neither in the judiciary decision. For that, you must have AI agents designed to avoid hallucinations. In judiciary, for example, it's easy to do this. You just say, "Oh, when you're going to transcript another old decision, you won't just create one. You want to search in these data here, in this database here." The same for Congress. When you're discussing, for example, the redaction, the how to write a law, a bill, you don't want just AI to create something from nothing. We want to know from the experience of the law in other countries, in our country, how the judiciary is doing the interpretation of the law, and all this data should be calibrated to use in Parliament. So I would like also, everybody has already talked about the training perspective, but I would like also to add this perspective of developing AI agents specifically designed to use in Congress. They will be so useful, and I believe people would see the advantage of using it instead of just being afraid of losing their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Bandeira, for your considerations. And that gives me the leave to bring my second question, starting with you, Catherine. Beyond generally reskilling, as we have been discussing, AI adoption requires staff to develop entirely new competencies, such as data literacy, prompt engineering, AI oversight, and even understanding, as Bandeira was mentioning, the algorithm decision-making. So in your view, Catherine, which technical skill sets are becoming most critical for parliamentary staff, in addition to the parliamentary work itself? And how are your institutions approaching the development of these capabilities?
Well, I think that probably whatever I say today will evolve as we start doing more of this, okay? However, I think that we have an opportunity where our members and the staff who are not only just the legislative directors and the individuals that we have in the member offices, but also our what we would call our staff in other areas of the organization are very anxious to start seeing how this can help alleviate some of the pressures they are under on a day-to-day basis. We are a organization, a Congress, where there is not a lot of downtime, and there's a lot of things going on right now that require individuals to gather information, gather it fast, and be able to have something for their member when they are getting ready to present a bill or be able to talk to an issue that's currently going on. So I think for our organization, going to where the individuals are that are going to need the tools to do their job more effectively, working with them to understand what it is that they specifically need help with. I don't think it's up to my organization to decide where they need the technology. We need to gather information from them, which we are doing, and get a better understanding of what are the tools, what is the prescription for giving them something that they can really utilize to help their jobs work more efficiently. So I am working very hard with my staff to make sure people understand what, as far as we can look into the future for right now, what is the best tool for our staff to use? How do we get it introduced? How do we ensure that what we are providing them is really giving them the enhanced capabilities that they are looking for? So I think of the competencies, the staff are ready to learn new competencies. That's not something that's going to be an obstacle for us. They want it. We have to work with them to deliver it. And I think that we are going down the right trajectory. We've got our use cases, we've got our policies, we have everything ready to begin this adventure that we all are on right now to make sure that people can effectively use the tools that we provide to them in a way they want to.
Thank you, Catherine, for your considerations. Federico, would you like to share your thoughts as well?
Yes, of course. Interesting question. This, I think in the modern parliamentary context, I think that 5 technical competencies are fundamental. Number 1, data literacy, because to interpret the report and the solution that inform legislative decisions. Number 2, computational thinking, to understand how digital systems work and solve problems logically. Number 3, ethical use of AI to ensure tools are used transparently and responsibly. Number 4, management of collaborative platform to work in digital environments such as legislative management system. This is very important. Finally, basic cybersecurity, because this topic is to protect sensitive data against growing threats. So, on the other hand, why these skills are critical to me? Because these competencies are vital because Parliament has a large volume of sensitive information. Data literacy enables to analyze public opinion trends. Computational thinking accelerates the adoption of new tools. Ethical AI use ensure public trust. Collaborative platform improve internal coordination. And cybersecurity protect institutional integrity. Without this skill, staff cannot fully leverage the potential of digitalization. To promote this skill, I suggest that modular training, that's topic in the short, targets course as implemented in the Mexican Senate, for example. Certifications, programs with the university to validate acquired skills, internal mentoring, tech sales staff mentoring, their peers, it's important. Finally, practical simulation. Exercise replicating real legislative scenarios. Linking this competition to the core mission of Parliament, serving the citizens, will drive staff engagement. A well-trained workforce not only adopt technology, but use it to strengthen Argentina democracy in our days.
Thank you, Federico, for your considerations. Jonathan, would you like to share your thoughts on this question as well?
Yeah, definitely. Also, I think I'd also like to mention there's a comment in the webinar chat as well, which is in relation to our sort of last question as well. I'd like to just sort of put a couple of comments on that as well, if that's okay. So the sort of question in the chat is around researchers as an example, and providing, the worry of staff losing their employment because of the high volume of work or gathering information, etc. And I'd like to sort of reference one of our sort of good friends, Ludwig, who's the head of Archives Unit of the European Parliament as well. And they implemented a AI chatbot, which is publicly available as an example. And we were talking with him, I think it was probably last year, I think, Louis. And he was sort of explaining, the process around that. And, the researchers were obviously worried about the introduction of AI and the impacts to their jobs as an example. And what they sort of realized with all the queries that are coming into the archives unit, so for researchers, etc., is that they were very basic queries. The majority of the percentage of information, for getting found was very simple, straightforward information. So 80% of the inquiries could have already publicly available. They were, available on the website as an example, but they were hard to find. So what they've actually now found, though, is that when an inquiry does come in now, is that it's a meaningful inquiry. And it's actually something which is actually quite hard and meaningful, and you actually do have to do a lot of work and research to actually find out the result from that. So instead of answering 80% of, say, basic questions, you're now focused on the high value in terms of that as well. So which is, sorry, a bit of a side sort of segment and a segue around that as well. So that's just a practical example of, how the, sort of the archives unit of the EU Parliament is actually using it in a meaningful manner but keep researchers actually engaged into their job as an example as well. And in terms of the skill sets, so coming back down to the actual original question as well, I think, I think it's two prongs to this. One is actually developing a system or developing a tool set which is actually easy to use and doesn't require a significant amount of retraining. Of the base system as well is really quite important. So to me, the transition from, what I call when I was sort of originally speaking around the original sort of Google search to the natural language search is quite a big jump. And it's not going to happen overnight. So that sort of continuous training and continuous reinforcement and the positive reinforcement of how we can actually use these systems on a day-to-day basis becomes really, I think, the fundamental part of the adoption piece of AI as well. And really providing what the context is. So I look at it and go, well, prompt engineering, as an example. And yes, you could do, significant training on prompt engineering and a range of other things. But if you can provide a very intuitive interface with helpful prompts by yourself, then you can minimize that sort of complex training as an example as well. So I think, from my point of view, is saying can we design a system which is intuitive to use to minimize the amount of retraining, but still take leverage of the innovations that AI can actually provide as an example. So, as an example, in the committee system which we've built, you can click on it and go, well, let's summarize a document. And you don't have to type in a prompt. You don't have to type in a range of other things. It will dynamically try to figure it out for you. So there's a range of sort of aspects or tools which we could then look at putting in place to really, I think, assist the end user with that sort of journey and that transition into the AI world.
Thank you, Jonathan. And before I yield the floor to Bandeira, just to recognize the example you gave of the Archbot from our friends of the EU Parliament. to recognize one of the colleagues which is here watching us today, Ibon Rios from the EU Parliament. And well, I think I can give
Hopefully
you
I
the
said
spoiler.
everything correctly. Sorry. So yeah, yeah.
And to give a spoiler, I'm not sure if I can, but I will anyway. In any case, Ludovic has accomplished his mission as the head of archives, and now either he's returning in the coming days or he already returned to his original post as the head of IT in the EU Parliament. So he had a mission to deliver a more modern archives, a more modern and responsive area. So just to make this very short recognition, since you mentioned this example from the Archbot, which is a very interesting case. I invite colleagues to read it. We have a publication about this in our library, which describes the different stages of the Archbot. So just this recognition to Ibon Rios, the person responsible for this project, and to Ludovic as well. And Bandeira, would you like to share your thoughts on this question?
Sure. Once again, thank you, Luis. Well, I'm asked for 2 minutes in this case. I'll answer your question about technical skills for parliamentary staff. Also, the question in the chat by Maurice Koch about the possible unemployment of people using after the adoption of AI tools. First of all, which technical skills would be the most important for parliamentary staff? I think the understanding of decision-making by AI is what they need to understand. This is a probabilistic model. AI will answer you the most probable answer by mathematically combining words associated in a context, in a given context of a prompt. Well, that said, when a staff use AI to look for a probable decision, it's okay. In the administrative using, this would be very, very useful. But I went in Parliament, and I need some different answer from what would be just probable. When you need creativity, when you need to respect ideological concepts, that's the work that we do in Parliament. We create law by using geology, using elements from society, from economy. AI can be very useful to look for, to search, to reach these elements in economy, for example. But the creation for the adoption of a new law is still a human thing. And what I answered for you, so AI is a tool to get the work done faster. Okay, so exactly what Maurice said in chat, they do. The AI does provide the worry of staff losing their employment, as the AI will do the work required in a much faster pace than the human element. Well, that's true in a certain way of thinking. As I said, in stenography from the Brazilian Senate, we have already reduced our people, but these people is not unemployed. This people has been trained to be in another function, and they do our job faster. We didn't reduce our staff, but we just stated it to put, for example, the transcription of the session online in real time. You know, in 10 years ago, we would wait for 3 days, 4 days to get the diary of that section, that session of Parliament, and democracy would lose that element of scalation of Congress work. You know, now we can see this online in real time, and that's what AI can provide us. But still, we need someone to be revising and reading all that and validating it. I'll have some more elements to think. Maybe in the last part of our panel, I'll come back to the subject. But for the moment, the answer that I would like to provide. Thank
you, Bandeira, for your thoughts. And allow me to bring my last question as a closing to this very interesting discussion today. Starting with you, Catherine. With the growing availability of AI-powered no-code or low-code platforms, non-technical or non-IT parliamentary staff have new opportunities to create tools and to automate tasks in their own areas or in their own offices. We have seen this decentralized approach in a few parliaments taking place. My question to you is, how can Parliament support staff in acquiring the capabilities to safely and effectively use this platform as part of the digital transformation of the institution? What are your views about this possibility for a decentralized development in different areas using these kind of tools?
Well, I will tell you the approach I think we will be adhering to is we will be in our technology department taking all the various tools that do this low code, no code, and we do have some low code, no code platforms currently that we are generating applications for the user community. But I believe we have yet to see one that we feel like we could just give to our house staff and they would be able to do the development that they have to do. It's going to take our assistance and our help. I think we'll get there as these platforms mature more over the years. But the goal for our member staff is not to have them be developers, but have them use the tools that we help integrate into the organization to do their jobs more efficiently, using a platform that is no code, low code. So we are particularly interested in helping staff understand the concepts and what they need to do for these products. And I have just been amazed at how quickly they're maturing over the past couple of years, quite frankly. So we will help them understand. Our job is to help understand their needs, help understand what they want us to provide to them, and provide the platform that allows them to do that effectively. But I can tell you that there are some of our staff that are going to need, and I'm talking about the office staff and other officer staffs, that are going to need a lot of assistance to implement and use some of these platforms effectively.
Thank you, Catherine, for your thoughts. Federico, would you like to share your considerations on this question as well?
Yes, of course. I think in proper use of digital platform in parliaments can lead to data leaks, procedural errors, or overruns on poorly understood system. The absence of cybersecurity training or clear policies exacerbate this risk and undermine public trust. I think that the strategies for security and effective use, in my opinion, I propose 5 strategies like cybersecurity training. In this case, mandatory workshops on data protection and threat detections, like those implemented in Spain Congress, for example. Clear usage policies, in this case, regulation that define how and when digital platforms should be used. Access control system that restrict access to sensitive information based on user roles, safe and use drills, practical, in this case, practical exercise to prepare staff for cyber attacks. It's common in our days. And finally, protect experimentation environments. In this case, safe space to test AI tools without risks similar to final Parliament labs. This is a huge example in our case of on the other hand, digital security is not the only technical, but also cultural. We must promote a digital ethics that prioritizes responsibility and transparency. Cross-functional learning, where staff share the best practice, will strengthen this culture. For instance, Costa Rica Parliament created internal forums to discuss ethical technology use. This is the interesting job in Costa Rica and in our country too. Finally, change begin at the top. Parliamentary leaders must model a safe and effective use of the platform, showing that security and performance are institutional priorities. Only then will we achieve a trustworthy digital transformation.
Thank you, Federico, for your considerations. Jonathan, would you like to share your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'd like to sort of build on both what Federico and Catherine is sort of saying from their sort of previous comments as well. I think if we have a look at like no code or low code, or from a non-technical perspective, it's evolving like ChatGPT or AI effectively as well. And so the whole point behind it is that they want, or the companies who are developing those sort of solutions, want to make sure that it's as easy to use as possible. And so to me, education about it is actually a really important factor. So getting in front of the curve, as we sort of like to say, in terms of understanding that people will actually already be starting to play around with it, starting to trial it out, as the experience gets better and better and better. One of the biggest reasons for ChatGPT, or, was sort of really had a really massive impetus and really sort of a big adoption around that is because it's easy to use. It just provides you with a text box and say, just type whatever you want in here and I'll try to answer it, as an example. So the easier something is to use, the more potential it has for wider adoption, as an example, even from a non-technical staff perspective. Now, you will have obviously some people who have got no interest in doing it, don't get me wrong. Which is fine. But I think though, business-led initiatives become really important to highlight what are some of the actual potential opportunities which could actually be then integrated into their business areas, as an example. And I don't necessarily believe that it should be a end user necessarily doing it at the moment, because I don't think the technology is mature enough to have it sort of what I call the mainstream easy access because of certain technology limitations, etc. But it will improve. And I think the rate of improvement that we're seeing will be quite large as well, especially over the next 12 months. So I think if we can get ahead of the curve with education pieces, in terms of saying, we know this is coming, we know that these are sort of a new technologies which are actually on the horizon, start the education piece to say, well, actually, we can help you as a business. As the Parliament or the Congress can actually then help the business staff actually implement those in a structured, meaningful, and safe way of doing that as well. Because I think if you look at confidential information or a range of other things into what I call the public sphere, that's when we're going to start to run into issues. So the more which we can educate staff to say, these are the boundaries, this is the safeguards, here is how we should be using it, the better protected and the better experiences I think all round will have.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your considerations. Bandeira, would you like to share your thoughts on this last question as well?
Yes, I was so glad to hear from Catherine, Federico, and Jonathan their point of views. I agree with all them. I'm trying to add some new considerations. But by the way, let me send a very big hug to Federico. It's very good to hear from you, guys. I just didn't had the opportunity to say that before. You know, when you want the non-technical people to use AI, you're not talking about AI IT staff. You're talking about maybe the security guy that in the entrance B or C of Congress, and they are going to use AI to try to deal with possible criminals to avoid them to enter in the Congress. There's a lot of consideration about race, about clothes, about what people how they're acting that can maybe be you can have a tendency to avoid people that are just citizens, but AI could think they are a possible criminal, by some kind of a race thing. They're black, or they are poor, or they look like undereducated, and you must understand how AI function to criticize its job. And that's how you much train our people, our staff, to understand the decision making. And also another very important thing is data protection. Federico talked about that, and it's so the big temptation, to make a good job in a fast way. In this committee of investigation, for example, that is going to examine bank transactions. This it's all about secrecy. It's a classified document, data, the classified data. But maybe someone from the staff would be tempted to just put in the cloud the database and ask ChatGPT, what transactions can be suspicious. That's a kind of work that AI can do, because they were going to do a probabilistic exam of the transaction, and when they see a transaction that's very out of the normal way, the probable way, they'll just appoint that, and that's very useful. But it's a classified document, so the staffer cannot put that on cloud and ask ChatGPT the answer. And that's we have to teach this and explain people why you cannot put that in cloud. They must understand why data protection is relevant. And again, I come back to my point that we should have AI agents specifically designed for use in Parliament. Because if I have this function, I can use my data protected documents for ask my AI in Senate servers without putting it up in the cloud, and I can make those questions with maybe a non-code platform. As you come back to the question, very easy to use, but adapted to that kind of a data analysis. Well, that's my point of view. I hope I contributed to the discussion.
Thank you, Bandeira, for the excellent considerations as well. We're reaching the end of our panel. Just before we conclude, I see there is a very interesting question here from a colleague, Dan Kerr, from the Legislative Assembly of British Columbia in Canada. We will not have the time, sadly, to cover this topic, but I can give you a spoiler. We have a cybersecurity panel coming up very soon. So I'll certainly keep you and all of the colleagues posted about this. Before we go, just to yield the floor back to each one of you for you to say your farewells message for colleagues, very briefly, so we keep it on time. I'm sorry for asking this, but if you can be in 30 seconds, each one of you. Starting with you, Catherine, would you like to say your farewells for the colleagues?
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed listening to your discussion questions and your thoughts on how to roll out AI effectively within your organizations and what you're seeing in other organizations as well, Jonathan, was very insightful. I want to thank you for the opportunity. It is interesting to share, I think, and extremely important to share among those here, because this is something we're all trying to better understand ourselves, as well as helping our organization understand. And the more we can share, the more we can investigate what's working and what isn't, the better we will all be. So thank you for the opportunity. I've enjoyed it, and have a good day. Okay.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you so much for your participation today. Federico, would you like to say your farewell message as well?
Oh, yes. To sum up, the digital transformation present an historic opportunity for our parliaments. Again, training our staff in technical competencies encourages the safe use of platform and embracing AI as an ally and urgent step. I think that is strategies such as continuous trainings, academic partnerships, and innovation labs will be empower us to lead this change. Technology offers us the tools to become more efficient, transparent, and connected our citizens. Thank you very much, Luis, and the rest of the panel. It's amazing to me to be here today. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Federico. It's a pleasure to welcome you again. Jonathan, would you like to say your farewell message as well?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me, for being part of the panel. I've learnt a lot, and I really do appreciate everyone's sort of thoughts, and especially around the topics that we're discussing. I think it's really good to get different viewpoints, as we sort of all know, and understand where, you know, we're all going to face a similar challenge in the future around this, and learning from others is usually the best opportunity, and to understand what challenges, you know, that people have already gone through, to understand how to then move forward for yourself. So I want to say thank you to my other panelists and Luis for organizing this, and I really appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your participation. Bandeira, would you like to say your farewell message for colleagues?
Yes, once again, thank you very much for the opportunity. I love to share with my international colleagues our experiences, and we learn a lot. And your job, Luís Kimaid at Bússola Tech, Tech, to promote this debate is very, very useful to all parliaments. In the name of Brazilian Senate, thank you for the opportunity. I just saw in the chat some considerations about data centers controlled by Parliament and cloud services. I'm sure this will be subject to a next debate. I'll learn a lot from it, and I'm not going to talk a lot more. I'm just would like to excuse you, Kimaid, my colleagues, and everyone, because we were started a little bit late. It was due to technical issues with my computer equipment. But hopefully we could use the time left to do a very good debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bandeira. Thank you, all of you. We do appreciate all of your time, the generosity of sharing your expertise. So we much appreciated your collaboration as usual.